Alarmist lemmings, systems of thought in Japan exposure or international exposure, but that kind of viewpoint still stands. So, with this, just jumping in, lately, in general, I guess the last week or so, including this one, so it's just there's so much information out there, so much geopolitical information as well, data, systems, whatever, algorithms. I mean, look at YouTube, look at your systems of info or data feeds, whatever. But it's all archaic, right? This is all bootstrapped. Um, where certain institutions have you can grab all these tools and resources, but that'll lead into systems of thought, which I'll talk about in a bit. Um, we have all this paranoia, all this fear, but it doesn't really generate anything. It doesn't build anything, right? It's like, okay, if you're afraid of something political happening in a region, you get the fuck out of there. If you're concerned about something, you move. Like, sometimes you're forced to stay in a certain position. Um, I had my largest capital loss ever. It essentially doubled my largest capital loss prior. I think I talked about it back in February. And it's just like you have a system of thought, you have a viewpoint, you have this problem that kind of blew up, and you have to engage with it, right? You have to stare at the computer all day or whatever until this problem's you've been able to recover past, in a capital market sense, recover past the loss. In a political sense, evade, survive. Um, which, to that extent, like if there's certain paranoias or systems of thought that, well, let's say, I would. There's a certain level of brain drain per se, or imported brain power. Well, what's the problem with you hopping over to a foreign country, whatever, and kind of doing the same thing that you're facing in your own country? Now, that sounds like something kind of privilege. I have no clue. This is just like game theory, which is more interesting to me than politic. So, how do you go down this route of thought, which in May and maybe part of June, I'll have a series of pre-recorded videos where I'll talk about a handful of topics. Check that out when you can, when that's out. If it's already out, I don't know when you're watching this, but the systems of thought, leading in from here to the systems of thought. I like game theory. I like hypotheticals. I like kind of thinking down the road, or a very procedural route. I started as an accounting major in college. COVID happened. I fell out of love with accounting, but I still loved finance, right? I loved how things worked financially speaking. I had a 98 in my financial accounting class, or accounting one, and I mean the whole story kind of unraveled. My story, my interests, whatever, in finance and ops, unraveled out of that. So, systems of thought. And, this week, continuing, I think AI is like the most novel concept thing, where it's like, what are the things that will survive this? And I don't know if you have to become a neocon or a boomer in the sense of economic thought, but retaining to that, maritime trade. Yes, these systems will probably get onto the point where a satellite connects to some computer on this heavy industry ship. If it's dry bulk, if it's I wouldn't say meat, but like cargo, like livestock cargo. If it's fish, if it's seafood, if it's frozen, who knows? If it's LNG, like no matter how you look at this, it's just like, all right, so it's just automation. You're still gonna need people in the process. Like that, there's something Alex Karp said this week. I wish that freaking A16Z interview dropped, but it hasn't. Where if you think all white collar jobs are going away, you're kind of an idiot. I don't want to say the term he said, even though I subscribe to that thought. There's some weird like AI doomer stuff, and it just doesn't make sense. And like the system of thought you have seems redundant. If you're not going to play part of this machine, what are you doing here, right? It's very strange. You have the right to be critical, but if it's not generating anything of value, that's kind of where I try to find that. I'm trying to find that. I wouldn't philosophic like sweet spot. Aside from that, the same thing applies with the business, and so I'm kind of bored with pareidolia right now. I know it's just in the rut. I think it's because of setting up all these trades and being very systematic with it, where it's like, okay, strike one, two, I have a pile of notes on the ground here, and it's just like I have the system where I drew it out. I know it's pretty basic, or you probably can't see this, but it's like, all right, date or week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6. Same. I'm I am doing the same strike on the covered call side with pareidolia with a certain holding I was talking about last week, and the same thing applies with. Well, I guess the inverse in my own personal account. When I'm doing the kind of the opposite, I'm selling puts in my PA, and with the company account, I'm doing covered calls against. Where it's just, prefacing this, obviously I have a larger appetite. I'm hungry. I want to grow my company, and I don't know. I feel like risk appetite when you're kind of bored just quadruples. And I don't think that's beneficial. However, if you can kind of systematize it, I think there's a way to like carve it up. And so, I believe it's 10 covered calls against, and then 15 like in May. So there's time to make it work and time to try to systematize. And so I was very curious to see how that works. But continuing with this, right? Like I'm a little bored. I'm like, okay, let me look at property in the middle of nowhere. Odessa, Midland, whatever, Dallas, or maybe not Dallas specifically, but the outer sides, what is viable to grab, right? I saw a house for $105,000. I know people complain, but it's a fixer-upper. It is not pretty, but you can make it work. I find the very like weird doomer nihilist thought kind of redundant. I know the place is like $900 a month. You live in the middle of nowhere, but you make the thing work, and then So I guess my viewpoint's more. I don't want to say strange. I don't think that's strange. It's just like this will to power. It's like I need to conquer the environment no matter what it looks like optically. And I was like, oh man, all I'm doing is paying $700 in my mortgage, and then $200 HOA fees, and then just, it's not optimal. I don't think it'd be very great for like socializing and things, but you could make it work. And like my business would probably, at least my private personal stuff, I could definitely afford it. Maybe following recovering the $30,000, but the same thought it comes when it's like, all right, I want to start company 2, and then maybe do expand, property acquisition, and buying fixer uppers, pumping money in, selling them off for and trying to scalp essentially, just to tie it into the trader kind of stuff. But then on top of that, it was like, you need to syndicate. I'm not going to put $100,000 into one property. That's kind of insane, asinine. So this is kind of a business proposal. If you're watching this on Instagram, definitely reach out to me, please. That is definitely company 2, and you can kind of carve it up. So that's what attracted me to finance. Just not the deal making, but the creativity and ideation of how to tackle a challenge. And then just Japan exposure. I mean, I got Kirodali. I'm going to do a couple of lessons or listen to them. Um, I take my notes and whatever. Where I want to be an international businessman. Like I always wanted to. I mean, that's kind of why I picked up Spanish and German. I'm trying to with Japanese, where it also Portuguese. But I mean, that's kind of normal to me. Or like it's funny because it's like so, when you have all these languages under your belt, it's like everybody should know this stuff. And not knowing how to, it's like I don't want to compare myself to other people because I am, myself. I'm one person. I am one man. I am one brain, and a certain viability to that is like you're yourself. You're your own identity. You're your own person. Um, how do you sell? So, thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. I'll be around next week.